Hey everybody, how's it going? Good morning. I hope you're all doing well. We have a very exciting show for you today. I'm very excited to show you guys this and take you guys down the rabbit hole with me. Welcome to my life. Let's just get started and jump into this. I'm going to show a clip here and then we'll go from there.
Have you made a tangible offer to Greenland yet? Have you made an actual offer to Denmark?
I haven't done that, but Greenland should make the deal because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds. In the meantime, you have Russian destroyers and submarines and China destroyers and submarines all over the place. We're not going to let that happen.
In the meantime, are you going
And if it affects NATO, then it affects NATO. But, you know, they need us much more than we need them. I will tell you that right now.
Mr. President, are you going to UK and Germany?
That's a war that should have never happened with Ukraine.
The UK and Germany are discussing plans for a joint NATO mission to protect Arctic security in Greenland. Does that change your calculus at all?
No, look, we're talking about acquiring, not leasing, not having it short term. We're talking about acquiring.
Does that require
And if we don't do it, Russia or China will. And that's not going to happen when I'm president.
Are you going to increase the amount of military bases on Greenland in the meantime?
But we have bases on Greenland.
Are you
Yeah.
going to do more?
I put a lot of soldiers there right now if I want, but you need more than that. You need ownership. You really need title, as they say in the real estate business.
You're on Minneapolis.
So what you heard was that Trump said that the only defense that Greenland has and is 2 dog sleds. Uh, pretty pretty edgy statement to say the least. All right. The thing that's interesting about Trump and the way he's going about trying to obtain Greenland is he's saying that China and Russia are the excuse, that the threats of China and Russia is the reason why he's kind of strong arming Greenland into submission. All right, but okay, he's saying we have to establish a greater military presence in Greenland. But I want to spit some facts to you. All right, and I'm going to show you something here real quick as I do this. Hold on one moment. All right, so, and I'm sorry for all these squares. That's kind of interesting how they, chop up Google Earth like this. Let me make sure that this is as big as it can be for you. And I'll zoom in just a pinch more. Okay. Now, I mean, you can see that this is pretty expansive here. All right. All the way up to the edge there. And if we pull out, you can see where this base is in Greenland. Okay. And this base in Greenland, that's a space base, the Prophetic is what I'm going to call it. Prophetic space base is the largest U.S. military base in Greenland. You can see that it comes even down into here. It branches over into here. All right, you can see there's probably, looks like some wargaming test sites and things like that over here. But it's a very expansive base, all right, in Greenland. Now, it's a fact that the U.S. has the biggest base in Greenland out of all the bases that are in Greenland, even Greenland's own military base. U.S. has a bigger military presence in Greenland than the Danish do, all right? So already, this isn't about security, okay, because the U.S. is already there, all right? This is about Kingdom One forming that we've talked about on this channel for quite some time now. I want to also reiterate that in Greenland, there is no limit to how many soldiers the U.S. can put in Greenland. All right. And I actually talked to my buddy in Denmark, Karsten Jesperson, and I really appreciate him and his knowledge. And he had told me kind of what the Danish are thinking and saying, and what's kind of going on their side of the coin. And he told me that the Danish work on the U.S. base And basically the Danish have always supported the United States in all of their endeavors, especially with like Iraq and Afghanistan. There were Danish people that fought alongside U.S. soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's almost like, America has turned a cold shoulder to Denmark. All right, and it to me, and I'm just going to tell you from my perspective, it almost seems kind of a little bit like it's bullying, like we're bullying Denmark into laying down Greenland on the table. But what Denmark has stated is that they are going to let Greenland decide what they want to do, because Denmark knows that they're not going to be able to do anything about it either way. So Greenland is gonna be up to Greenland, and even United States, news personalities, people like Nick Shirley and things like that, have already gone to Greenland and asked Greenland's, like if each Greenland resident got this much money, would you sell Greenland? And he said like $20,000 for each resident, which with for each citizen. And they were like, I don't know. And then as soon as he's like, well, what about 100,000? And then they're like, oh yeah, yeah, and it instantly convinced them. You know what I mean? And something that's interesting is that in the Pitofik space base, which is the largest military base in Greenland, that's a U.S. base that I'm showing you right now. The Danish actually in Greenland work there, and it's the United States soldiers that are the boots on the ground. So, there's already a very strong U.S. presence in Greenland, and it's not the only U.S. base in Greenland, okay? But that is the largest one, all right there at the northern half of it, we'll say, okay? And, you can see where Russia's at over here, okay? But my point is, there's already a very intense United States presence in Greenland, okay? And we've been showing you this map for quite some time. There's two different maps. One has been altered to take out Mexico, but I find it kind of interesting that Trump has been telling Mexico, hey, take care of the cartel problem, or the United States is going to, and we'll put boots on the ground, is what he's saying. All right. And so we see that kind of forming where Mexico is going to be conscripted into this thing. And Trump's already talked about Canada becoming the United States' 51st state. All right. So you have all these different angles that are being talked about right now. And it's funny, it lines up with this map perfectly. All right. On top of that, you have Trump has gone after Maduro in Venezuela, and he's talking about going after Colombia and Ecuador, and I think a few other nations in South America. But if you look at Kingdom 6 here, you see kind of like a western edge. Take out Brazil, which is the biggest chunk in that western edge, like Chile and all that stuff, going up the western side of Kingdom 6 is already basically conscripted and in alignment with this plan to become Kingdom 6. All right. Trump has also cut a backdoor deal between Russia and the United States and Russia basically said, we'll give you Venezuela. And the United States said, if you give us Venezuela, we'll basically hand the Ukraine over to you and stop funding them and giving them weapons. So in doing so, we start to speed along the buildings of Kingdoms 5 and 6. In the meantime, Kingdom 1 is being built. And then also on the side, Kingdom 7, this Middle East peace deal that Trump is brokering and Jared Kushner is brokering, is forming fast as well. Kingdom 9, which is ASEAN, ASEAN, is they're actually have conscripted a new country into the mix, and they're talking about a second, which that hasn't happened in 25 years. And so Kingdom 2 is fastly forming the way it needs to be, because Poland and Ukraine are a part of Kingdom 5. So it seems that Poland eventually will leave the EU and join the basically like the Russian part of BRICS. All right. And so we see this quickly forming and pulling together. All right. And give me a second here. I'll show you something. Hold on. There's a book that was written called The Secret Destiny of America. All right. And it was written by a man named Manly P. Hall. This is Manly P. Hall. And in the book, The Secret Destiny of America, all right, Manly P. Hall's esoteric vision of America as being the pioneer of a perfected global order rooted in ancient mystery schools and secret societies seems to be fulfilling, uh, uh, seems to be being fulfilled. All right. And it's very possible through military restructuring of the world's nations. All right. And it's going to culminate in a unified New World Order. Hall described this as a great plan for world economic, for world democracy and universal brotherhood, where America leads humanity towards an enlightened social alchemy free from division and tyranny. So division, aka global unified order. All right. And it obviously they believe it's going to be this utopia, but it ends up being a dystopia, if you know what I'm saying there. Okay, so it ultimately ends up with this world ruler that the Bible calls the Antichrist taking over. And he's gonna come on a platform of peace at first, free from division and tyranny, and then eventually he's going to become the tyrant that the Bible says is brewing. And in the same theology, or the same theosophy, that Benjamin Krem talked about with this coming world teacher known as Maitreya. And we're going to get to that stuff here in a little bit, and how the theosophists are connected to this. And Manly P. Hall was a theosophist as well. This scenario basically begins a peaceful integration, but stalls due to nationalism, economic crises, or geopolitical conflicts. All right, this could necessitate forceful realignments. So as the people of the world are resistant to this global order emerging, like I think it was J.P. Warburg or whatever his name is, he says, whether by conquest or consent, we will have the New World Order. All right, such alliances and interventions, or even wars, to consolidate power into a centralized global system. This aligns with broader New World Order concepts, where Hall saw the need to undo cherished errors in his quote unquote undo cherished errors in traditional systems, including religious ones, to pave the way for a godless, tolerant one world government requiring generations of conditioning, which we've undergone. Such a restructuring might involve dividing the world into regional blocks or super states for efficient governance, mirroring prophetic structures that enable a singular authority to emerge. All right. I think that this is a pretty valid theory here, and it connects to biblical end times prophecy, particularly the 10 kings symbolized as 10 horns in Daniel. All right. And just kind of showing you this here, the 10 kingdoms that the 10 kings will oversee. Okay. Hold on one second here. But also the motif is more explicitly in Daniel 7:7-8. So anyways, describing a fourth beast, often interpreted as a final world empire with 10 horns as 10 simultaneous kings. This is echoed in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1, and chapter 17, verses 12-16. All right, in this framework, the 10 horns or kings represent a 10-nation confederacy or global federation, possibly a revived Roman Empire or modern super regions under U.S.-led influence. This does not mean that the United States is Mystery Babylon, but what it does mean is that the U.S. is being used to complete this objective. All right, it will briefly unite and give over their authority to a central beastly power for a short period. It says 1 hour, okay, which or 42 months of great tribulation, okay, half of the great tribulation. It says from among them, and an 11th horn, the little horn or Antichrist, arises out of these 10 kings or 10 kingdoms. Once they're in place, that's when the Antichrist is going to arise. And we see how they're quickly forming together now. All right. The Antichrist will subdue 3 of these kings, all right, and dominating the rest to establish total rule. All right. He's going to blaspheme God, speak great and blasphemous things against the hosts of heaven, and make war against the saints, and he'll be given the power to overcome them. All right. Manly P. Hall's idealistic New World Order with America as its guardian could hypothetically devolve into this through military means if the Great Plan encounters resistance, which people are already talking about resisting what's coming. There's already plans to resist what's coming. And this will lead to a restructured world where 10 aligned powers pave the way for this emerged ruler, fulfilling the prophecy as a satanic mimicry of divine order where unity turns tyrannical. Okay, so now Donald Trump's recent and ongoing political maneuvers framed within the esoteric great plan outlined by Manly P. Hall for America's role in establishing a new world order. Okay, this is Manly P. Hall's plan, all right, could strategically align with restructuring the globe into the 10 kingdoms depicted on the provided map, serving as a prophetic setup for the biblical 10 kings in Daniel 7 and Daniel 8 and Revelation 17, from which an 11th horn, a singular world ruler, emerges to dominate. This map that I've shown you here, okay, it illustrates a divided world order, region 1, North America, encompassing the US, Canada, and potentially Mexico, Greenland, that are all in the green, which is fastly emerging. Hold on, I'm getting a drink here, 1 second. And then region 2, which is Europe in yellow. Region 3 is Japan in pale yellow. Region 4 is Australia and South Africa in aqua. Region 5 is Russia and former Soviet states in orange. Region 6 is Latin America, including South and Central America in yellow. Region 7 is the Middle East and North African continent in purple. Region 8 is the Sub-Saharan African, or what you would consider tropical Africa, in brown. Region 9 is ASEAN, which is the South Asia India alliance, in pink. And Region 10, which is the China East Asia, in magenta. These divisions echo conspiracy interpretations of a Club of Rome style global federation. And I think I actually have that picture I can show you. Give me a moment. I got to find it, though. I have it in here. There it is. This is the Club of Rome map, and what this is closely correlates to the Club of Rome map. All right? You see? It's very, very similar. The only difference is that Mexico is not a part of Kingdom 1. But Donald Trump is talking about taking out the cartels. And I'll be honest with you, if you know anything about geopolitics in Mexico, it's really the cartel that are really the government in Mexico. And believe it or not, the cartels threaten the government in Mexico all the time. The cartels are more powerful than the government is. I wonder who funded the cartels to make them so powerful, to be a problem now, problem, reaction, solution. Okay. But that's where it's all headed. Okay. It seems that it's military and economic and diplomatic pressures that will consolidate the power blocks under U.S. influence, paving the way for a unified system that devolves into an end times beast empire. Okay, I think it's very clear what's happening here. For Kingdom 1, which is the North American bloc, Trump's persistent push to acquire Greenland renewed in early 2026 with threats of military action if Denmark resists. All right, and I'll tell you right now, Denmark is upset. They're pissed. Like they don't like this, but they realize that they have no power or no cards to play. All right, so this positions the U.S. to control the Arctic resources and strategic military outposts, effectively expanding U.S. territory northward. All right. And once they have that, then it's going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy to take over Canada, which they've already dubbed the 51st state. And people in Canada are already cheering for that. People are cheering for this. All right. They want this. I mean, the people have been programmed for this unification to take place, but they don't know what it's going to lead to and the tyranny that's going to come out of that. All right. Simultaneously, his escalating threats of land strikes and military intervention in Mexico to dismantle cartels intensified post 2025, with warnings that Mexico must get their act together or face U.S. forces. Could force a de facto integration, turning Mexico into a compliant satellite under U.S. oversight, curbing migration and drug flows while securing southern borders. So this is where it's all going. This is where it's all going. That's going to complete that super region, which is Kingdom Number 1. Trump's repeated floated ideas of annexing Canada as the 51st state, dismissed as rhetoric but reiterated in 2025 to 2026 amid trade disputes and Arctic tensions, could leverage economic coercion or alliances to fold Canada in, creating a unified North American entity rich in resources and military might, aligning with Hull's vision of an America as the New World Order's pioneer by consolidating its hemisphere first. This bloc would stand as a stable foundation for the 10 Kingdom Federation, where resistance is undone through force, mirroring the prophetic 10 horns as temporary allies before the 11th horn emerges, which is the world ruler or the world teacher, or what Christians would call the Antichrist, or what the Muslims would call the 12th Imam, Mahdi. All right, it goes, I mean, I can sit here and go through them all. All right. But Trump's revival and expansion of the Abraham Accords, his 2020 Middle East peace framework that normalized ties between Israel and several Arab states, directly builds towards Kingdom 7. Okay, it directly builds towards that. All right, the Middle East North African bloc, fostering economic and security integration across the region to counter Iran and promote stability. But even though Iran is falling apart and becoming a part of this bloc, okay, and Iran has to fall to become a part of this bloc. Do you see how it's all aligning? I've been telling you this stuff for well over 2 years, and it's coming to pass now. I told you, as this channel goes on, the credibility of this channel will go up, because we've been over the target the entire time, ahead of the game the entire time. While everybody else lies to you and fluffs you up, we've been giving you the facts and the receipts. In a 2026 context, these deals could evolve into a broader confederacy, incorporating North African nations through anti-terrorism pacts and resource sharing, effectively creating a unified Abrahamic superstate. And it'll be Israel that's the center of that, that's going to head it up. I promise you that aligns disparate factions under U.S. brokered peace. This advances the New World Order by social alchemy, as Manly P. Hall described in his book. And I can show you the cover of his book here, right there, the Secret Destiny of America. And so, anyways, give me a moment here. As Manly P. Hall described, transforming historical enmities into cooperative governance, setting the stage for biblical prophecy, where such a bloc becomes one of the 10 kings, yielding power to the beast. All right, regarding Kingdoms 5 and 6, which is the Russia bloc and the Latin America bloc, Trump's alleged back-channel dealings with Russia, echoing 2019 proposals where Moscow offered the U.S. free rein in Venezuela in exchange for hands-off in Ukraine, have resurfaced amid the January 2026 U.S. strike in Venezuela, potentially trading spheres of influence to redraw maps. This could solidify Kingdom 5 by allowing Russia to consolidate control over the Ukraine and Eurasian territories without U.S. interference. And that's why NATO's beginning to break up. They're already talking about NATO breaking up, because and BRICS is going to break up too. Or they're going to clash real quick, and it's going to be world war between BRICS and NATO. And after that, this all will emerge. And we'll also, out of that, once the 10 kingdoms emerge, then Antichrist emerges. Okay? But all of this, while granting America leverage in Venezuela to topple Maduro and install a pro-U.S. regime, kickstarting Kingdom 6's formation as a hemispheric alliance under Washington's umbrella. Extending this, Trump's January 2026 statements threatening military operations in Colombia, accusing President Petro of drug ties and signaling intervention if cocaine flows persist, further accelerates Kingdom 6 by targeting neighboring holdouts like Colombia, potentially through strikes or regime change to align them with U.S.-friendly governance in Venezuela and beyond. Such moves could encompass broader Latin American nations using anti-cartel campaigns as a pretext for military restructuring. Do you see how they've empowered the cartels? Problem, reaction, solution. The solution is a new world order. It's beginning to take form, forging a cohesive bloc that counters leftist influence and integrates economically with North America. All right, so it's pretty clear cut. All right, it's pretty clear cut. Now, there's a man named Nicholas Roerich. All right, this is Nicholas Roerich right here. He was a Russian mystic, an artist, and a theosophist out of the House of Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, and their connections with the United Nations. He played a pivotal role in the reshaping of the U.S. $1 bill, just the $1 bill, in 1935 by influencing the inclusion of both sides of the Great Seal, all right, on the back of the dollar bill. And I'll show you that right now. And we're going to get into the symbolism that I've drawn on here for you today. And we're going to go into it and show you how they're telling you what they're going to do to you. And that's why the dollar bill hasn't changed. All the other money has changed. The dollar bill stays the same because the plan isn't complete yet. But once the plan is complete, obviously, I think honestly the currency will collapse, and that's when you'll see a digital currency emerge. But they're going to keep this. They always hold on to their old ideas and their self-fulfilling prophecies, okay? So the obverse, the eagle and reverse unfinished pyramid with the all-seeing eye, which is symbolically encoded in America's esoteric destiny, written about by Manly P. Hall and Sir Francis Bacon as the architect of a new world order. All right, like I said, it aligns with Manly P. Hall's great plan for global enlightenment and unity. As a spiritual advisor to Henry A. Wallace, Nicholas Roerich, then U.S. Secretary of Agriculture and later Vice President under FBI, Roerich, whom Wallace addressed as Dear Guru in letters, so he called Nicholas Roerich Guru, all right, introduced the profound symbolism of the all-seeing eye and the pyramid, urging its placement on the currency to broadcast America's mission as the guardian of universal brotherhood and a perfected world democracy. Okay, now I want to kind of go through this with a fine-tooth comb here, and we're going to start on the other side here. You can see that in the upper right-hand corner, you see a shield. Okay. And a lot of people have pointed this out, this little caricature, and I can't zoom in super close, but a lot of people say it's a spider. When you use a magnifying glass and you look really well, it's an owl. It's an owl. It's symbolic of the Bohemian Grove owl. That's also symbolic of Molech, but also Luciferian wisdom. The shield that you see here is the same shape of the Rothschild shield, okay? But what I want to do real quick after saying that is we're not counting the green serial numbers or the four corners we'll call it the white part. All right, near the green serial numbers, you see these like number 4s. Those change on dollar bills. Those always change. They don't stay the same. Hold on, I'm getting a drink here. What we're counting is fixed ones. And this is where it gets really, really important. If you look in the four corners, there's a number 1 in each four corner. That counts as 4. Now, if you look at the seal for the Department of Treasury, the green seal, it says the word 1. That's 5. At the bottom of the dollar bill, it says 1. All right, that's 6. There are 6 ones on the front of the dollar bill, no more, no less. Okay, we're not counting the serial numbers, only the fixed numbers. Now, if we flip over to the back of the US dollar, it has the word 1 and the number 1, all right, in in each corner. So it counts as 2. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then you have 1 in the middle, that's 9. Then you have 1 at the bottom where it says $1. That's 10. Okay. But then if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, okay, at the very end of the Roman numerals that are on there, there's the number 1 there. Okay. And if you look in it's not even an eagle, but we'll say it's an eagle for right now. If you look in the eagle's mouth, there's a banner, and on the right hand side it says unum, unum, unum. So it says e pluribus unum. Unum in Latin means one. Okay, so that is 12. All right, and if you total that up, that's on the front, it's 6 plus 6 plus 6. So there's a 666 in ones on the dollar bill, because the two hidden ones, the one at the bottom of the pyramid and the one in the eagle's mouth. Okay, now, all right, Annuit coeptus, let's look at the pyramid seal here. Annuit coeptus means announcing the conception or announcing the birth. Novus Ordo Seclorum means new secular order. Anything that's secular can be translated as world. So this could literally say announcing the birth of the new world order. All right. Now at the bottom of the pyramid, all right, you have you have Roman numerals down there. Now, if you start at the M that's at the beginning, which I've circled, the M, and you go up to the A, follow the line up to the A on the left, on the pyramid symbol, okay, over to the S and down to the O, back up to the M and over to the N in perfect succession, it spells Mason. If you follow that from the foundation, the beginning of all things, that's what they believe in the occult. It goes Mason over to the N, and it spells in perfect succession Mason. Now you can obviously finish the drawing and you get a 6-pointed star, but remember, this has a circle around it. Okay, and Aleister Crowley invented that symbol. Okay, it's not to be confused with the David star or anything like that. But what it is its own symbol that Aleister Crowley invented for the Thelema magic, the sex magic that he would do, and it was used to summon demonic spirits. If you look at the top of the right seal here, we see another 6-pointed star with the rays of light around it. There's another 6-pointed star with a circle around it. It's a hexagram at that point, all right? And then you also, if you go from the tip of the hexagram at the top of the eagle's head down to the talons and back up, you get another triangle. From wingtip to wingtip down to the tail feathers, you get another triangle. So you get another hexagram, and it obviously already has its own circle around it for another 6 plus 6 plus 6. Okay, so not only is there one 666, but there's two 666s on the back of the or on the dollar bill in general. All right, now, if you look at the seal of the pyramid, okay, that capstone that's at the top is a left eye, okay? They consider that Lucifer's left eye. If you look at the steps leading up to it, that would be like the reason that the occult realm uses that symbolism is because you have to climb these steps of the mystery schools to become what they believe a god in human form. That's what they believe. Like the Rothschilds, they're literally looked at in the occult world as if they're gods in human form, that they've ascended to that status. Okay. Now, if you look, basically this pyramid symbolism also, like with the Egyptian pyramids, represents ancient world governance. Okay, we have Assyria, the Medes and the Persians, Babylon, Assyria, Egypt, the Medes Assyria, Egypt, Babylon, the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, and what we're in right now is like a revived Roman Empire. Okay, but that symbolizes those ancient world kingdoms that have taken over before, but it's announcing the birth of a new world order. Now, if you look at those those Roman numerals at the bottom of the pyramid, all right, those play out to be 1776, but there's an M at the beginning and a 1 at the end, and that's very important because there was two events that happened in 1776. On July 4th, the signing of our Declaration of Independence, but on May 1st, which is May Day, which is the Illuminati's birth, okay, on May 1st in 1776, the Illuminati was conceived in Bavaria, Germany, by Adam Weishaupt and the Rothschilds family. Adam Weishaupt was a very well-known Jesuit priest, all right? He was actually what you would consider nowadays to be an absolute genius, all right? And what happened is that the Rothschilds approached him. They said, we will financially back you in your endeavors. You have the occult knowledge to make this group. And then what what he did was is he started to infiltrate the different Masonic lodges that were coming about to be, because before the 1700s, the Freemasons were just a stone guild, a place where people who were stonemasons could find work. And there was secret trade and things like that on how to work with stone. And yes, there was probably some underscoring ideologies and things like that, but things didn't really become what was known as free and accepted masonry until 1717. All right, in 1717 in Scotland is when free and accepted masonry, not just stone masons, but they have started to allow nobility to pay dues and join Freemasonry, or joined Masonry, because it was considered trendy at the time to be a Mason. They had all these secret handshakes and the secret club, and nobility wanted to be a part of that. And as nobility began to join Masonry, it became free and accepted Masonry, because the nobility weren't Masons. So that's when it started to become the secret society that it is today. And it's no different that in May 1st, 1776, about 50 years later, so to speak, give or take, they developed the Illuminati. They infiltrated the Freemasonic lodges, and Adam Weishaupt began to integrate his plan for a new world order into all of this secret society stuff. Now, that's that ancient idea of that in the past. Now, if you look at the eagle seal, you'll see that the eagle, and it's very interesting, and this is, you got to look very closely if you have a dollar bill, bust it out so that way you can see a little bit better. But if you look at the back of the eagle's head, it has one feather coming off the back of his head. It's like it's a fluffed up feather. And that means right there that this isn't an eagle at all. All right. If you look at the Native American headdresses and things like that, that represents the phoenix, and the phoenix represents rebirth in the occult realm. All right. So this phoenix, all right, is looking at all these ancient world kingdoms, and it's being reborn. Okay. If you look at the wings, on the left side, there's 32 feathers. And on the right side, there's 33 feathers. This isn't an error, a printing error. It's representative of the two different rites of Freemasonry, the Scottish Rite and the York Rite. Okay. Now, if you, again, look at the old seal of the pyramid, Mason, you see a Masonic connection. So it's going to be this ancient world kingdom that's been headed up by the occult will be reborn under the wings and the shadows of Freemasonry, is how they're going to hide. Okay. And it says in the eagle's mouth, e pluribus unum. Okay. And so they say out of many one is what that means in Latin. They try to say the question is out of many one what? All right. And so if you look throughout all of this, you'll notice Annuet Coeptus is 13 letters. I think Novus Ordo Seclorum is 13 letters. The steps to the pyramid to the top is 13 steps. You have in the talons of the phoenix, there's 13 leaves, and you can't really see them in this picture too well, but there's 13 olive berries. Okay, then you have 13 arrows. All right, so there's all these different 13s. There's 13 letters in e pluribus unum. So there's and then up at the top, that hexagram that I've drawn over, the 6-pointed star, it actually is 13 stars. So 13, 13, 13. So they say out of many one, e pluribus unum, and they try to make it out to be, oh, well, there was 13 colonies, and out of many colonies, one nation is formed. No, 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 no. There was 12 colonies and a subdivision known as Washington, D.C. That's what it truly is. All right. So what does 13 represent? 13 in gematria or numerology represents depravity and rebellion. All right. But it also can signify out of many secret societies, one is formed. They all kind of start to merge together, even though there's all this infighting because they don't trust each other. And that's why they blackmail each other to control each other. And they use children to do that as cannon fodder to control each other in their agenda to bring about this new world order. And however, which side wants to bring it about, that's how they do it. Okay. But if you basically are putting this together, all right. Actually, I want to show you this first. In the occult realm, all right, if a hand is open, something's being given to you. Like you've seen that symbolism where there's a hand open and there's an eye in the center of the hand. All right. So if that's being seen, they're giving you foresight of your future. They're giving you knowledge of your future. The hand is open. So theoretically, if something is clenched, something's being taken away. And if you notice in the talons of the phoenix, all right, what it is it's 13 olives that are on there, and that's an olive branch that's always represented peace. And then those arrows represent our military might and the ability to protect ourselves. So the this kingdom that's being reborn under depravity and rebellion, all right, is taking away our peace and taking away our ability to protect ourselves. They want to take our Second Amendment and they want to defund our military. They want to defund the police, all that stuff. You hear that rhetoric all the time. Now, if you look at the shield on the chest of the phoenix, there's 7 white stripes and there's 6 black stripes. That's placing 6 above 7, which is the number for man is 6 and the number for 7 is God. So it's placing man above God. All right. So if we start to sum up this symbolism that we're seeing here, all right, on May 1st, 1776, a new world order is born. It'll be all the ancient world empires being reborn through Freemasonry, all right, because the phoenix is rebirth, so being reborn, and the wings obviously are under the guise of Freemasonry, all right. Out of many secret societies, one is formed, and it will place man above God, and it plans to take away our peace and the ability to protect ourselves. Now, getting past those 2 symbols that Nicholas Roerich was responsible for, okay, if you look at the left lower corner and you see the number 1 with the word 1 over top of it, if you look to the right of that at the bottom, you will see a demonic spirit, a fallen angel, if you will, the wings. You can even see the face and the shoulders. Okay, and there's 2 of these. I've left the other one on the right side uncolored so you can look and see what I'm trying to show you. All right, that there is these spirits that they put on the dollar bill. Now, if you were to look sideways, you got to look sideways at it, okay? You can see on the left-hand side of the dollar bill on the side edge, I've made some other coloring marks. And if you look closely, all right, and you tilt your head to the side because I can't flip the image, I'm sorry. But if you look closely, they are owls with their wings spread open standing on a pedestal. It literally, you can see the brow of the owl, the wings spread open. You see the chest of the owl and the feet standing on the pedestal. All right. And that is these like symbolic of the Bohemian Grove. You can Google it or whatever, but there's a certain way you fold the $2 bill. Okay. And it actually is the Bohemian Grove owl on the back of it, a certain way that you fold that as well. So there's all these diagrams and things like that folding and these hidden meanings and all that stuff. But the reason they and you have to look back, they've changed the pennies, the nickels, the dimes. And I mean, by some of the backs and the pictures on them. Okay. They've changed those. They've changed the quarters. They've changed the 50-cent pieces, the dollar coins. All right. They've changed the 5s, the 10s, the 20s, the 50s, the 100s, but they have not changed the $1 bill because the plan stays the same. All right. Nicholas Roerich right here is responsible for the way that was put together. All right. So Nicholas Roerich, worked for Wallace, Henry Wallace, and he was deeply immersed. Henry Wallace was deeply immersed in Roerich's teachings from Agni Yoga and Theosophy. Madame Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, Lucis Trust, Lucifer Publishing, connections to United Nations. Is it all making sense now? United Nations being a global government, wanting a new world order. You see how this all fits in? And it was proposed that this design changed to President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1934, framing it as a Masonic and esoteric emblem of divine providence guiding the nation towards its secret destiny. Hold on, I'm running out of spit here. Let me get a drink here. Hold on. The reverse seal's unfinished pyramid represents ongoing human evolution, all right, or this also divine order, and this you got to climb the steps to gain this like godlike status, and that's the way they believe that we're evolving, whatever. But with the capstone hovering above as the culmination of an alchemical transformation, turning man into God. A direct nod to America's role as well in forging a global order, all right, And as Manly P. Hall described, Rorick's influence ensured this dual seal layout became a public talisman. All right, so there's a lot of people, and I'm just going to say this for instance, that give me a hard time about owning some of the Illuminati card game to show people the subliminal, propaganda that's within it. But here, I always tell people, if you think that's bad, get rid of your money that's in your pocket, because your money is so much more satanic, and it's literally the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil, is what the Bible says, and the symbolism really proves it. I'll tell you. Okay, but so like I said, Manly P. Hall described that, and Rorick's influence ensured this dual seal layout became a public talisman, subtly conditioning generations towards a new world order vision where America leads the social alchemy to unify humanity. It's not about that they're mystery Babylon. It's not about that the Antichrist is going to come out of America. It's the sole purpose that Sir Francis Bacon and Manly P. Hall talked about, that America would be used to build the global government. And look what is being done by our administration, and how they are beginning to unite the world. This is what I've been trying to warn people. Okay, this is central to Rorick's mysticism. All right, and it was his claim to possess the Philosopher's Stone, and this goes into Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Okay, and we'll get there. Okay, just give me a moment. All right, and it's also known as the Sorcerer's Stone, or Chintamani. All right, a legendary artifact that he described as a miraculous, wish-fulfilling gem that fell to earth from Lucifer's crown during the cosmic battle with the archangel Michael, with Michael the archangel. According to esoteric traditions Rorick drew from, including medieval alchemical texts like Parzival, this stone was dislodged when Michael the archangel struck Lucifer amid the war in heaven. And this is their esoteric version, obviously, of where this stone come from. And it plummeted to earth as a radiant fragment imbued with transformative powers to transmute base matter into gold, grant immortality, and reveal hidden wisdom. All right, preordained to save the world and guide enlightened souls toward Shambhala, the hidden kingdom of spiritual masters. All right, this is all out of the House of Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, all that stuff, okay? Rorick asserted he received this stone, all right, possibly a meteorite shard from Orion, some schools of thought believe. And a lot of people say that the kings and the queens are actually crowned upon this stone. They call it, in the occult, they call it Jacob's pillow as well. All right, and I'm not making a biblical tie there. There is no biblical tie. I'm just saying this is what the esoteric mindset is in the occult. All right, so during his 1920s Asian expeditions, carrying it in a sacred casket as a symbol of divine authority, and even painted it in works like white stone. And that's why I avoid the white stone stuff. There's YouTube subscribers. I could name a couple that go around talking about white stone, and it's actually really dangerous to talk about, because it can mean something completely different than the white stone that Jesus gives people. All right, because Lucifer, is one given signs nowadays. Jesus said that, and I covered it in the last live yesterday, where I talked about the sign of Jonah, and a wicked and adulterous generation shall be given no sign except for the sign of Jonah. All right, so anybody getting a white stone confirmation, man, be careful. All right, and you know who I'm probably talking about. You've come across this YouTube subscriber that goes around acting like he knows everything, and I've dealt with him before, and he's pompous. Anyways, Chintamani sign in 1933. So I want to reread that. All right, and even painted it in works like Whitestone, the Chintamani sign in 1933, portraying it as a beacon for humanity's regeneration. He linked it directly to Lucifer's fall, viewing the stone as a redeemed aspect of the morning star's power, now harnessed for good in the hands of initiates like himself. All right, it says here, Lucifer, as described in Ezekiel 28:13, was encrusted with precious gemstones as his covering in Eden, symbolizing his original angelic splendor before pride led to his downfall. These stones formed a radiant breastplate, or what the Jews would wear as an ephod, all right, in the temple, all right, where they have 12 stones, but Lucifer had 8. All right. Lucifer was encrusted with sardius, which is ruby or carnelian, topaz, diamond, beryl, which can be considered turquoise or aquamarine. All right. Onyx, jasper, sapphire, and emerald, each representing aspects of cosmic harmony and power, with the emerald often cited, blah, 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 as one of the knocked free to become the philosopher's stone. So they say it's green. They say it's green. Okay. All right. They say it's green. All right. Now, Rorik, give me a moment here. Like I said, the emerald is often cited as the one knocked free to become the philosopher's stone, or aka what Harry Potter calls the sorcerer's stone. All right. This configuration parallels the high priest's breastplate, but it's truncated to 8 in some esoteric interpretations, but it's also in the Bible as well that it's 8. Lucifer never received 12 stones. All right. Emphasizing Lucifer's incomplete fall from grace. Nicholas Rorik, subtly hinted that the capstone on the dollar bill's pyramid, featuring the all-seeing eye, was a pictorial representation of this philosopher's stone, aka the sorcerer's stone, the hovering apex symbolizing the fallen gem's role in completing the great work of America of alchemical perfection, where America places the stone atop the global structure to usher in the New World Order. In his writings and art, Rorik portrayed the Shintamani as a triangular eye-like emblem of enlightenment, mirroring the seal's design and tying it to Lucifer's legacy, thus embedding this theory into the currency as a blueprint for America's destiny and the prophetic 10 kingdom framework. Now, what do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of that? I'll tell you, that's pretty deep down the rabbit hole, if you ask me. That's pretty deep down the rabbit hole, if you ask me. And it all leads back to the building of 10 kingdoms. It all leads back to the building of these 10 kingdoms. And there's an occult agenda to bring about these 10 kingdoms, not just a military agenda or a political agenda. There is a secret destiny, if you will. But I want to also reiterate that in the occult, they call the Antichrist destiny. Did you know that they call the Antichrist destiny? And I have my own thoughts, and it's okay if people have their own thoughts that America is great, Mystery Babylon or whatever, or that, Rome is Mystery Babylon, or that Jerusalem is Mystery Babylon. I lean so far away from those theories, it's unreal. And a lot of them stem from Jesuit teachings and things like that, believe it or not, when you really trace them back. I think one place can be Mystery Babylon, and in a later teaching, I'm going to go into that. But I actually will tell you, I believe it's Babylon, Iraq. And down the line, I am already working on a teaching that I'm going to do where I discuss this thing in great length, in my opinion, proving that Mystery Babylon is, Babylon, Iraq. So, anyways, I appreciate all of you live. It means a lot to me. I thank you for giving me your time and listening to what I have to say. I pray that it makes sense to you, because it fits in perfectly with what's going on. It shows an esoteric agenda, a military agenda, a political agenda, an economical agenda, leading the world into a 10 kingdom order that the Bible foretold us about. Okay. And right here. Okay. So once again, may God bless you all. May he keep you. And please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.